And as I said to you a few moments ago, good afternoon. Good afternoon to this great day. It's our mindset that we must set, that we would be able to recognize the movement of God, because it is truth that allows us to see God. Today is November 29th, 2023. This is recording 607, entitled, That Which I Seek, I Am. That which I seek, I am. Now, unlike most things in this world, it's kind of hard to convince ourselves that if I'm looking for a lost penny when I find it, it's hard to convince myself that I am that penny when I find it. Or if I'm looking for a road map, or if I'm looking for something that I've misplaced, if I'm looking for a friend, it's kind of hard to convince yourself that you are that very thing that you are looking for, that you have found. But in the teaching of Jesus Christ, if you recall, he said at the beginning at 12 years old, did you not know that I should be about my Father's business? Given the impression that he was about a work that had been given him by a father. At the close of his ministry, the 3-year ministry, he looked at them and said, did you not know that when you see me, you see him that sent me? Or when you see me, you see the Father that sent me. So what we need to see here is that our life as a span of days or years is a culmination of starting out to believe that we are doing a work for someone and coming to the conclusion that the one that we set out to work for was ourselves. And we come to an understanding that that which I have sought, I find myself to be. Now, you say, well, is there conversation or is there scripture to back that up? Yes. Beloved, for he who believed on him gave he the power to become sons of God, right? Then over in the epistles, what does John say? John says, beloved, now are we the sons of God. That's the same man. See? John, in the book of John, is the one who wrote down, he gave them the power to become. And now John, in the epistles, after his transformation, says, now are we the sons of God? Paul, in his epistles, talks of when our life, which is Christ, shall appear. If you skip over these scriptures, you miss the point, because you will always equate it with Jesus, which is nothing wrong with doing that. But you skip over Paul. You skip over John. You skip over Enoch. You skip over Elijah. You skip over them, saying that they have had the same expression. Elijah and Enoch's expressions were so over the top that what happened? Enoch was no more, for God took him. Makes it sound like God snatched him. No, he didn't. He took him from being a human, believing that he was mortal. And Elijah rode off in a chariot of fire. Well, we know that he did not succumb to something that he didn't want to, because at the close of Jesus' ministry, Elijah shows up again with Moses, which lets us know that something special has happened in the consciousness of these men. I hope you heard what I just said. Consciousness. I will harp on this and harp on this and harp on this. The greatest power in all of the universe is your conscience. It's not just there to tell you you're right or you're wrong or to make you feel guilty or make you feel happy. It's not there for that. No, your consciousness forms your outer picture. Whatsoever a man sow, or how a man thinketh in his heart, that shall he surely reap. Okay? So is he. So once we start bringing the spotlight to ourselves as what? I have a power about me, and this power never neglects to form what I am thinking in my heart. Now I put the spotlight on me to watch what I'm thinking, to care what I'm thinking about, to not judge people. Paul comes and says what? Henceforth, he says, we have handled. Now people don't realize Paul makes it sound like he lived in the day of Jesus Christ, but he didn't. Paul comes along some 40 years after Jesus Christ has been crucified, risen, and gone on. And Paul comes and he says, we have handled him. How could you handle something that you have not seen? What he's saying is we have handled what Jesus represented. We beheld its glory. We saw, you know how you talk about miracles? That's handling him. You're seeing miracles, but you're not supposed to see miracles because of your nature. You're supposed to live in a land that is just marvelous to live in. So then Paul says, henceforth from this moment, I commend you to him, and I ask of you, do not look at people after the flesh. You see what I'm saying? Do not look at people after the flesh. Henceforth know we no man after the flesh. So it all comes down to acceptance. The word acceptance. For everyone that hath shall be given. Everyone that has what? Acceptance. But not just acceptance of anything, because people can come and tell you anything, you accept it, and go off down a road that you really don't want to go. So he's saying for everyone that can accept the truth of the wisdoms of God shall be given what? Given more. All you ever, please get this, all you're ever going to be given is wisdom and understanding. Not cars and boats and planes. Those things show up because of the glory that you're entertaining. But as I said to someone the other day, the main thing to do is to entertain that which stands behind the visible product that showed up, or the financial blessing, or the relationship fix. Stand behind and worship that which caused it to happen. My wife and I were watching the Kelly Clarkson show, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it just happened to be, there was a lady on there that had been blessed, and she had been blessed with $500 the day after she needed, the day before she needed to pay a bill which she didn't have. And the thing was put on Facebook, and it went viral. She didn't know anything about it. And they invited her to a Detroit Tigers baseball game. And when they got there, she found out that the people of Detroit had taken up some money for her to help her out, and she was presented $50,000. Okay? Now, the audience and everybody's going, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, and she's crying. And Kelly Clarkson says, get this, now Kelly Clarkson, she's a millionaire. Kelly Clarkson says, I think I need to hook up with you and have you pray for me. What is she saying? She's saying the very thing that the world is saying. God is not answering my prayers. Because you see, that's the one thing that that's the one thing that they're seeking for. A relationship with God, and they cover it up by saying what? I go to church, I tithe, I get in the food banks, I do this service, and there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with doing those things, but why would you say, I need to hook up with you? because you know how to pray. Maybe I can get some of my prayers answered. And we as people, what do? We just assume that because these people got a lot of what? Money, we think that they're happy. They're not. Because there is a void. It's like in that movie, Tombstone, where Doc Holliday says a void. There's just a hole in them that never heals. Well, that's what Jesus Christ came to sew up. That sense of separation. Because as you read the scriptures, you will see that we have never been separated from God, even though we have been taught. And we were taught this because of something that Adam and Eve did, right? And we were made to feel responsible for what they did. But in reality, it was a sense of separation. Because God says, you shall never be separated from me. Do not I always fill up everything that I've created? Am I not in everything? Is there anything that I am not in? Or what happens when you close the gap from 12 years old to whatever age you are, and with an understanding that I have this truth? And the more I stir up this truth within me, I'm closing that gap till I come to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, where it says, for the first Adam was of the earth. That's Adam and Eve. That's us. And the second Adam is the Lord Christ from heaven. For it was God's desire and his plan to make of twain, those two persons, into one new man. And they're in the same body. So we need to understand that as we live daily, what we're doing is we're putting ourselves in a position to believe. And we're setting our minds to believe. And therefore, we must keep secret what we're learning, because the world would truly torch us if they found out we actually believe and think that we are God, that we are God's sons, God's children. And yet the scriptures bear it out. No, you're not. Ye are the children of God. He shall have abundance, but from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he has, which simply means now just the opposite of what I just talked about. That man will suffer in the earth believing that he's got to grind it out. He's got to work it out. He's got to do all kinds of things. And then how is he going to be happy at the end? Because he says, then I'll present this to God to see if it was okay. The Lord taketh pleasure in him, in them that fear him, in those that hope in his mercy. He takes pleasure. Well, I want to fear him. That doesn't mean I want to be afraid of him. Fear means to revere, to honor in this particular case. You know, the Lord takes pleasure in those who respect him and hope in his mercy. That means my mind is always set and stayed on him. He showeth his word unto Jacob and his statutes unto Israel. There it is again. That's that he desired of two, of twain. People don't realize that if you look in your Bible, I want you to do this. Every time you open your Bible and the name Jacob is mentioned, look what comes right behind it. Israel. 99.9% of the time, when Jacob is referred to in the Bible, 2 or 3 words later is Israel, because Jacob is representative of the man of the earth who is living according to the census, and Israel is the son of God. When Moses goes to Egypt, what does he tell Pharaoh? Let my son Israel come into the wilderness to worship me. Well, who would that son be coming into the wilderness? Jacob. Even though the name isn't mentioned, he mentions Israel. But he doesn't mention them as a people. He mentions them as a son. Because God is only looking at. Moses is focused in now on the fact that every man is the son of God, whether he chooses to believe it or not. And this goes for those of you who see yourselves as being female also. But keep in mind, there is neither male nor female. So when I refer to son, I'm not talking about just men being in charge and over top of women and being able to go in before. No, Paul says there's neither male nor female. So therefore, he showeth his word unto the unknowledgeable, okay, and his statutes to the knowledgeable, Israel. A statute is something that you live by. Jacob lives by what he thinks to be good today, at the moment, or whatever. But Israel lives by what he knows to be correct always. He shows his word unto all who are willing to turn within in conscious union with him, that his understanding, his strength, his wisdom may be shown forth. This is not about us walking out in the streets proving to people that we're good people, that we go to church, that we love God, that we know good things. No, God is bringing forth his glory through this thing called mankind. But mankind has to have understanding and experience. Stop trying to tell people. That was one of the problems, myself included in some cases, but I did have many instances where I knew this was true, but not to the point of total comfortability. What is that? Telling people something that you have not truly experienced. You can't lead anybody if you've never been there. And you say, well, Jesus didn't. Yeah, read the book of Hebrews. We have not a high priest who has not been tested and tried, who did not spend many, many hours crying out to God to deliver him. See, that right there negates just the one instance or the two instances, one being Jesus in the garden, okay? Lord, let this cup pass from me. Or Jesus on the cross. No, it says many instances with wailings and crying. Why? Because he had to experience all of the things that we are experiencing, okay, that he would be able to guide us to that fruitful place, that fruitful land. It is not our understanding that sets us free, but the understanding of God that reveals itself when we turn within in acceptance. We have to be willing to let go of our welfare as we know it. And that's a scary thing. I know it is. Trust me, I know it is. That's a scary thing because you're saying, to just trust God, I don't know if I can do that. And then we will immediately right behind it say God is omnipotent. Oh, wait a minute. Which one is he? If God is omnipotent, how can you be afraid? Think about it. Think about it. Now, you can come up with all these kinds of reasons why you're afraid, but this might, but then God's not omnipotent, is he? See, we need to spend time with the word omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. We need to spend time with those until acceptance comes. Confirmation, till the angel comes and confirms by the still small voice, yes, this is the truth. Now walk ye in it. This is the way. His understanding, being infinite, will flow continuously as we submit in conviction of the presence that is all. Well, I don't know how to get to that place. Yes, you do. Come into the closet, right? Close the door, and the Father that what? Seeth in secret will openly reward you. He's telling you right there. I do that. Well, keep on doing it. But do it with an expectancy. Do it with an acceptance. Don't do it to see if it works. Do it because you know it works. A great deal, yeah, a great deal is being asked of us. A great deal is being demanded of us. Jesus said you can't see the kingdom unless you die. Paul says this mortality must be thrown off and we must put on immortality. Another place he goes on to say, but thanks be to God who has given such great treasures in earthen vessels. He's telling you the kingdom of heaven is within you, but it can't come out unless you accept it being there, which means you have to kill off who you think you are in belief, not in body, in belief. And as you kill it off, then immortality is revealed to have been there all along. We must allow separation from the values and beliefs that we have held dear. Yeah, that's hard. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's easy. We must separate ourselves from the world view. You may have to stand, sit, or run, or walk in a conversation just looking at somebody saying, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. But the bottom line is you cannot believe it. You can't believe it. God doesn't lose anything if he is in it. How can he lose himself? Though the earth be removed and the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters roar and be troubled, we hold fast to the belief that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. God is omniscient. If God is omnipresent, what trouble can I be in? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. But we have been taught that we need a God to deliver us. Well, we have a God, get this, that has delivered us. He came and said, I'm putting an end to this. I'm sending my son. I've sent messengers, and you killed them all off or you run them all off, but now I'm sending my son. And his son, what was the most famous word that he said on the cross? It is finished. He did it. It is with conviction of soul that we rest, knowing that God in the midst of his tabernacle shall not be moved. And the reason he can't be moved is because we have allowed him to sit on the throne. We have allowed him to sit in the holy place. That's what the scriptures say. Be careful when you see the abomination. Those who can clearly see and understand will understand what this meant. When you see the abomination of that which is unholy sitting in the holy place. The more that we allow the conviction of God's presence and infinite truth to be all, shall we recognize our inseparable position. Think about that. You should get a vision within yourself to be able to see yourself at some point contemplating never being afraid, never being separated, or the fact that you see it, if you can imagine it, it's there. That's it. Don't blame it. Accept it. And then do the work. You work at anything that has value, don't you? You worked at cooking. You worked at cleaning. You worked at working. You worked at receiving a husband, a boyfriend. You worked at receiving a girlfriend, whatever the case may be, a wife. You worked at it. You worked at raising kids. You worked at doing all these. Worked at learning trades. Why is it that we won't work at the realization that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there I am. There you'll find me. You'll always find me there in contemplation. Even if the confirmation has not clearly 100% locked me down, know that it will. Why? Because I will keep my mind stayed on that conviction that God has vowed and God does not go back. And it's freely given. If God be for us, what can man do to separate me? Of what shall I be afraid? As we face the day, we set aside moments of reminding ourselves of the infinite presence everywhere and all around. Here are your instructions. You're saying, how do I do it? You have to make time. To do what? Set time aside, get quiet, and remind myself of the presence of God within me. As I spoke this past Sunday, remember I talked to you about dropping the sponge in the water? And the sponge soaking up all the water, but there was so much water that the sponge couldn't soak it in, so the other waters remained all around it. So that even if the sponge were to lose a little of its absorbency or saturation, more water was pouring in. So we need to understand, this is our saving grace. Where does it come from? The conscience. Your ability to accept something as being true. Not a hoping, but a blessed assurance. Yes, voluntary acceptance of the presence always abounding is our protection, our deliverance. We with confidence then witness the dissolving of that which has come to threaten. Can you imagine just walking with an understanding that nothing shall by any means hurt or harm me? The Spirit of the Lord goes before me to make the crooked path straight. That's just my understanding. The path doesn't have to be like the yellow brick road. It's just my misunderstanding. The presence of God goes before. And who follows me? Surely goodness and mercy. They follow me. Patience. Much patience is required that we achieve the highest conviction. Devoted with the whole heart, we must become patient. Am I going to need patience? Yeah, you're going to need a lot of patience. But guess who the patience is with? Yourself. Your patience is not with these people. These people are bringing forth world beliefs to you, and you must take those world beliefs and acknowledge, yeah, I see you. Don't act like they're not happening, because they are happening in this world. The people of this world have created those situations because they think them good and evil. They think them good to protect themselves, or they think some people just want to be evil towards somebody because they think that good. You see what I'm saying? You said that person was just evil. Well, why were they doing it? They were doing it to protect themselves, so they thought, which made it good for them. Some people do good for you because they know that if you believe it, you're going to be trapped in something and it'll turn evil, which would be good for them again. So you're going to need patience. And the patience is to be able to look at whatever is coming at you and to realize you have three words to deal with it. What are they? Omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience. We have entered a world that offers much, and we must practice at every opportunity that we might behold the works of the Lord. We have entered a world that offers much. In fact, it offers all that God has. And we must practice at every opportunity that we might behold the works of the Lord. So when you see a crippled body, okay, when you see an impoverished soul, when you see an unclothed beggar, when you see a murderer, when you see someone that's doing ugly things or things that you know are not good for people, remember the question that was asked Jesus? Who sinned? Who sinned that this happened? Because we quickly want to jump over there on the Job boat, right? And say, Job, you've done something wrong. But what did Jesus say? No one sinned. Oh, my goodness. No one sinned. Well, why is this happening? That you might what? That you might see the glory of God. What's the glory of God? The fact that God created all things in his image and likeness. That's why you are compelled to go into the world and do what? Heal the sick, raise the dead, open blinded eyes, open deaf ears. See? These are the things that we should be carrying on our shoulders lightly. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. We should be walking going, oh, my goodness, I am going to see the glory of God. You don't have to tell people that you're ignoring what is going on in front of you. You tell your conscience, you allow your consciousness, and guess what? At some point in time, as comfortable as you are with who you are today, your name, as comfortable as you are, that's what we must become in belief. We never pray to God to see if he's going to do something that can make us comfortable. No. You become comfortable within. And as you become comfortable within, you can go forth that the glory of God would be expressed. Moses, I'm sending you. Moses tried his best to free his people, didn't he? And it took him 40 years to become what? Comfortable. When he got comfortable in God, God said, go, dude, I'm going to do this. Moses said, okay. Paul tried his best to refute or do away with the teachings of Jesus Christ, right? Because he thought he knew them. But on the Damascus Trail, what happened? The voice comes and said, Paul, you need to stop. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you what to do. And Paul says after 9 years, he set out on a mission. It took him 9 more years to learn what he thought he already knew. And then one day the voice comes and says, Paul, I need you to go here. Don't be afraid. You think Paul is comfortable now? He knows it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Abraham with his son Isaac. Well, he knew that if he sacrificed, what was he comfortable knowing? God will raise him from the ashes. See, we must stay in that place of silence until it becomes confirmed. Yeah, but I'm such and such a years old. The age ain't got nothing to do with it. Okay? Age doesn't have a thing to do with it. It's your desire to know. To behold the glory of God, to behold the glory of the Lord, to come to a place of knowing that there is absolutely nothing to fear. Paul says, not that I have fully attained, but I press on. Well, I'm saying the same thing. You hear me beaming with confidence and giving this message. The bottom line is, not that I have fully attained, but I press on. Why? Because this is God's desire for me. Be not afraid. I am with you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of what? Love, power, and a sound mind. Oh, sound mind? What's the sound mind? The mind of Christ. So we continue up that mountain of understanding until we reach the pinnacle. To have revealed to us that we are ever before the majesty of God, held in the highest regards. You see, I wanted to just go on from there, but I feel I must say, held in the highest regard. God is not holding your flesh in high regard. You with me now? You're held in the highest regard because you have ascended to the revelation of what? I and my Father are one. I am the Son of God, which means I am the visible expression of the highest love that God has, which is Christ, the only begotten of the Father. That's being held in the highest regard. And it's not that we are raised to a place to accept this. It's that which has covered that belief has been thrown off till we realize why we were invited to come into the Holy of Holies. Remember it says when Jesus was crucified that the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies was torn from top to bottom, thereby exposing the Holy of Holies. And we took that to mean, okay, we can just go in there and see what's in there. No. You'll go in there and see your heritage. That's what that means. How wonderful is this understanding? To finally understand and rest in the assurance that God is truly our refuge, a very present help, and there is no trouble. Acceptance. That which I am seeking, I am. God bless. Now let's have a meditation. Glory to God in the highest, peace on earth to all men. For my eyes are opened, and I realize there is but one presence. And that presence stands all-powerful. That presence stands all-knowing. And that presence stands everywhere present. What then shall I fear? How? Why shall I contemplate anything? For where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, I am. I will glory in this understanding that the Father would glorify his Son. For as he is in this world, so am I. I live and move, and I have my being. Yes, Lord, I know now that I was sent forth for purpose, designed for a special, specific situation, conditions. So therefore, I know that I cannot leave except that purpose be brought forth. I am therefore giving myself, submitting myself, that your will and your will only be purposed in me. Whatever it is, let it be, for I accept now that thou art the King of glory, and I am the gate that allows you to freely come in and go out to restore your kingdom. May you be glorified in all that is. Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening.